the potential impact that has had. You said you're in favor of a strategic application of tariffs. He's called for a blanket tariff of 10% on all imports, maybe as high as 60% on Chinese imports. Does that fit your definition of a strategic tariff, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And they are two entirely different things. You're absolutely right about that. Here's what I hope plays out. I hope that there is the threat of tariffs on the table of 10 or 20% across the board to bring trading partners to the table to have serious conversations about the imbalances that we have. And President-elect Trump is absolutely right about that. There are massive trade imbalances. We have $1 trillion trade deficit in goods. So it's huge. And it's with some countries that are strategic competitors like China. In other cases, it's with like the European Union or Mexico. And so achieving some balance, I think, could benefit working families. It's all in the details, though. It's do you proceed from tariffs to a negotiation? Are you targeting strategic goods? Are you going to tax things that we simply don't produce here, like a lot of foodstuffs, for example? And so the devil's going to be in the details, of course, but using it as leverage, the strategic application of tariffs, I think that's a policy that needs to be continued. And interestingly, Ryan, I think this is one thing where a lot of people probably expected Joe Biden at the beginning of his term to say, I'm going to get rid of all the tariffs, right? Because it was Trump policy. That didn't happen. In fact, he escalated a number of those tariffs on China. And so let's see how this plays out. I want to work with them to make this plan workable for American manufacturing and for workers.
But it does sound like a blanket tariff's not what you're calling for, right? Because it seems like you deal differently with the European Union than you might with Mexico, than you might with China. You say you put them on the table and then see who comes to have a conversation about how they could potentially be implemented?
Well, look, if they're not willing to have a conversation, then yeah, you put the tariffs into place. But let's look at how it worked out in the first Trump term. You know, he talked about the tariffs on China. He talked about the tariffs on steel and aluminum. And yes, there were tariffs put into place, but there were also mechanisms to kind of make sure that it wasn't disruptive to our economy. And it turned out not to be disruptive to our economy. And in fact, very stabilizing for a lot of these industries. So if there is that level of sophistication and care, I do think it can work. But we're not going to have a 20% blanket tariff on every good coming in. I cannot imagine that's the way the policy
because that is a concern, right? That some economists have, that it wouldn't be stabilizing. In fact, it could lead to inflation beyond what we've even seen. How concerned are you about the impact that tariffs could have on the basic price of goods that everyone buys every day?
Yeah, well, I think here's the thing. We're starting from a position of strength here. There is President Trump's going to be inheriting a very strong economy with relatively low inflation, relatively low unemployment. And so we are well positioned here. But our trade position is out of whack. It really is. And so that's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm glad that he's indicated that he's serious about that. I think that this can be crafted in a way that is not going to escalate inflation, but it has to be done with care.
All right, Scott Paul, thank you for being here.